Michelle, during the break, Matt was saying he's a sucker. He's a sucker for these kind of labels, and I'm a mother of 3 kids. As soon as I hear that it's grass-fed and organic, I assume this is better for my children, and without actually digging into a label, I buy it.
I agree. I would as well. I've always been, for years and years before it was fashionable, on the margin, why not err on the side of safety?
Right.
You know, you're never really totally sure, but pesticides, hormones, additives, preservatives, how can they be great for you?
So, but is it all really true? I mean, we hear so many examples now of people labeling foods gluten-free that, well, I shouldn't say is it true, but is it just a ploy? Because so many foods are naturally gluten-free. They never had gluten in them, and now they throw that label on them, and all of a sudden sales rise.
Well, it's true, but people who have a severe gluten intolerance, only 1 out of 133 Americans have a real severe gluten intolerance, and yet for some product categories, gluten-free products can be as much as 20 to 30% of the sales. But for people who are severely allergic, who have very adverse reactions, they need to know that it's gluten-free. And legislation's been passed and it's been put into effect to make sure that products that say they're gluten-free really are.
But it doesn't feel like this gluten-free situation is a bit of a fad. I mean, it seems like every 3rd person I dine with today is gluten-free, yet 4 years ago, they were definitely throwing down pizza with me.
True, but on the margin, again, if they think they feel better, I don't know if it'll stay for sure, but some people claim that they feel better, whatever the reaction is, so why not do it? Again, I don't know if it will stay, but on the margin, if you can choose between gluten-free and not, why not pick gluten-free?
All right, well, these healthier options are more expensive. How can one deduce how much healthier are they really?
You'll never know unless there are tons and tons of scientific experiments, and there's different degrees. I know natural wine, I think, is the next thing that we're going to be talking a lot about, because there are a tremendous amount of sprays, insecticides on grapes, and yet it's just grape juice, so you think it's natural. So I think more and more we're going to find out really what's behind the claims.
Is there, I mean, we see, for example, the term organic on everything, but what does that actually mean?
Well, it's certified organic, and that means that this soil is organic. It means it's not sprayed with pesticides. I think there's a certification process for organic that's very meaningful. It's very much less clear for all natural. The all natural definition is much more fuzzy and less regulated and monitored.
Kraft recently announced that it was going to be removing the artificial orange and yellow dye from their macaroni and cheese. Is that actually going to have an impact on how much macaroni and cheese they sell? One would argue the consumer who cares about something like that wasn't buying Kraft macaroni and cheese to begin with.
Well, on the margin, again, versus the organic versions, I think people do look at artificial flavors and colors. They look at artificial in the ingredient statement. So now there's less of a difference between Kraft macaroni and cheese and others, and so I think it actually could help them.
So you're a sucker like me and Steph. I thought you were going to come on here and tell us it's all a scam and we're all wasting our precious pennies at the grocery store on these labels that are so easy to just buy or print on food that hasn't really changed.
I don't think it's a scam. Again, depending on what the certification is, there's different degrees of how well regulated they are. But I think, again, on the margin, I'd rather be safe than sorry, and who knows?
Then why are so many of these companies, these GMOs, fighting more labeling?
The companies are fighting them because the more stringent you get, the more bad things that can come out. So, and it's more expensive it is for them to produce, and they have to raise their prices, and then they may lose sales. So there's some companies that are fighting them. There are others that want transparency because they feel that if they're really doing the right thing, then they're going to have a competitive advantage.